Welcome to our daily reflection for this Sunday, March 24th. And of course, today is Palm Sunday. And there's so much about the rich readings. This is the longest readings we're going to get in the church for a particular Mass from the Gospel. And it's an important one. And I really recommend that as we kick off Holy Week, we're in the final stretch. And it's so important to just really make sure you commit to and you're generous with your time in prayer with God. Have that quiet time. Reflect and read and reread some of the passion narratives like the Gospel of Mark that we're going to hear. Read those passion narratives, whether at the end of Luke or Mark or Matthew, and spend time reflecting on it during your prayer time today and this week especially. Now, as we start, we have this beginning of the liturgy begins with a Gospel from where we get the word Palm Sunday, and it's about Jesus' procession into Jerusalem, his final entry to the holy city. And now he comes as the Messiah. And he's been more and more open in recent days that he is the Messiah, that he's the Son of God. And now his disciples, like in a royal cortege, accompany him in a dramatic way into the city, not subtly, not quietly, but they're in procession. In fact, they have Jesus ride on a donkey. They throw palm branches down in front of him. And they also throw their cloaks down. Why all this fuss? It's because what they're doing for Jesus' royal entry is they're making it royal. They're basically saying, you are king. You are, which is what the word Christ, anointed one means, or Messiah in Hebrew. You're the Messiah. You're the King of Israel. That's what they're proclaiming. And that's what the disciples now are showing. And you have to remember, so often in the 3-year ministry of Jesus, Jesus would tell people, don't, especially his disciples, even when Peter professes you're the Messiah, the Son of the living God, Jesus strictly tells them, don't tell anybody. And now Jesus has taken this censure, this, him telling his people not to speak to the media and not to let this be known who he is. And now he allows them to do that. So now they're jubilant. Now they get to proclaim and celebrate that Jesus is the Messiah. And so the significance of these deeds and these actions mean a lot if you are a Jew and you understand the Jewish story. So why the palm branches for Palm Sunday? Well, when Judas Maccabeus defeated the Greeks and came in triumphantly to Jerusalem to purify the temple, they all waved palm branches. Why? Because it's a sign of victory. And so they were proclaiming and celebrating his victory, that he could go in and that the Greeks were defeated and the temple could be cleansed. And so what does Jesus do on Palm Sunday? He makes a procession into Jerusalem and up to the temple in which he will cleanse the temple. So they think Jesus is going to be the new Judas Maccabeus. That story is so important for Jews of Jesus' day that even 2 of Jesus' 12 disciples were named after Judas Maccabeus. Judas Iscariot and the other Judas were both named after Judas Maccabeus because their parents and the people of that day longed for a new Judas Maccabeus. And that's what they're hoping that they have found in Jesus of Nazareth, a new Judas Maccabeus. And that's why, by the way, they're going to be so disappointed, because when he comes to the temple and he cleanses it, he doesn't cleanse the temple from the Romans, but actually from the Jews. That is why they're going to turn during this Holy Week from proclaiming him, Hosanna, hail to the Son of David, to the King of the Jews. They're going to go from proclaiming him with praise to basically shouting to Pilate to crucify him. Why? Because he's disappointed them. He's bitterly disappointed them by not turning on Rome, but turning seemingly against Israel for Israel's sins. They don't like that. That's not going to go over well. The other thing that they do is they throw their garments down in front of him. And this is something, again, that happens in Israel's story, where Jehu is made king. And every man took their cloak off for Jehu to walk over, which is a sign of submission. It was a sign of making him king. So what they're doing is they're basically proclaiming Jesus as their king, as their Messiah. That's what's going on Palm Sunday. And of course, we know, ironically, at the end of the week, he will be proclaimed king of the Jews, even by Rome and by the emperor himself, because the title on the cross will be Jesus of Nazareth, King of the Jews. he will be crucified as king. And then we're going to hear that story in the long passion story of the gospel. But let's take those two things together. From the first gospel that we get at the very beginning of the Mass and the longer passion story that we get in the midst of the Mass, they both begin and end with the kingship of Christ. But Jesus will be a different king altogether. And so let's think about how kingship underlies the thread and the themes of these readings, and how Jesus comes to be our king, but he dies to save us as king. May the Lord bless and keep you.
This daily reflection is brought to you thanks to the generous support of the Mission Circle. Join the Mission Circle to help Catholics worldwide understand, live, and share their faith. Sign up at missioncircle.org today.